In my time of need, that's the great thing, is that I am learned, over all these cancers, to be able to accept help.
Welcome to Believe in Progress, the American Association for Cancer Research Foundation podcast. Join us and be inspired by the incredible stories of those who have faced cancer with strength and resilience, and the medical professionals who are working tirelessly to find new treatments and ultimately a cure. Believe in Progress isn't just about the science of cancer. It's about the human side of this disease. Together, we can make progress in the fight against cancer and bring hope to those who need it most. Welcome back to Believe in Progress, the podcast brought to you by the AACR Foundation. I'm your host, Mitch Stoller, and today's episode is an incredibly special one. We are re-airing our conversation with the one and only Howard Brown. If you're looking for inspiration, resilience, and a reminder of the power of human determination, this episode is for you. Howard Brown isn't just a two-time stage 4 cancer survivor. He's an advocate, a successful entrepreneur, and a relentless optimist who has turned his battle with cancer into a mission to help others. But now Howard needs our help. Howard's journey is one of perseverance, grit, and the unwavering belief that beating cancer is a team sport. Since our original conversation, Howard has faced new challenges, including an intense chemotherapy regimen and 38 blood and platelet transfusions. But despite the obstacles, his spirit remains unbreakable. In this episode, you'll hear Howard's inspiring story, his battles with stage 4 cancer, his advocacy for cancer research, and his philosophy of shining brightly in the face of adversity. And now, as he prepares for this crucial next step in his cancer battle, a donor match, stem cell transplant, he needs our support more than ever. Hearing Howard talk about his recent journey, it's clear that the fight against cancer is relentless, but so is he. His resilience reminds us why the work of the AACR Foundation is so crucial. Cancer research is what fuels groundbreaking treatments and gives people like Howard more time with their loved ones. If Howard's story moves you, consider making a donation to AACR today. Every dollar helps bring us closer to life-saving breakthroughs. At AACR, we believe in the power of research, collaboration, and community. So today, we're asking you to take action. Listen to Howard's story, share it, and if you're able, please consider supporting his GoFundMe or making a donation to AACR at aacr.org. Every contribution fuels life-saving research and provides hope to those in the fight of their lives. Now let's revisit this powerful conversation with Howard Brown, a true testament to the strength of the human spirit. Howard and I had a great conversation last Friday at about the same time. We want to re-air your podcast. You were the third podcast ever on Believe in Progress, and it was a very, very well received podcast. As you know, Howard has lots of admirers. And I wanted to bring everybody out there in the audience up to speed on what's going on in Howard's life and some of the challenges that he's facing right now. If anybody knows Howard like I know Howard, and I think many people do, he's a tough guy, and he is hitting these challenges with tremendous spirit and great attitude. So Howard, welcome back to Believe in Progress. Please take the floor and give everybody out there in our world an update on what's going on with you, please.
So, Mitch, thank you for having me back. And these are under real-time circumstances. Not anybody wants to hear the news that you have cancer once, but to hear you have cancer for a third time, to climb cancer mountain number 3 in one lifetime is almost surreal. And that happened to me. I had just, on September 25th, had my 5th anniversary of no evidence of disease of stage 4 metastatic colon cancer. I mean, just beating colon cancer, the odds are stacked against you. But I did, and that was a tough run from 2016 to 2024. And October 23rd, I played 2 hours of basketball.
No surprise.
And I was fine. Monday, I did a 5-mile hike. I was fine. Tuesday, I worked out in the gym and I noticed that I had a bruise on my forearm. And it was not from basketball. You know where your bruises are when you get hacked. We've been playing ball enough, Mitch. So unfortunately, I took a picture of it at the gym. I sent it to my oncologist. He goes, "Come on in now. Let's take some counts." So I get down, about an hour later, and I do my blood work, and I don't have a port anymore. My port was removed at 7.5 years. So they're taking it out of the veins. And I'm sitting there waiting for my good friend, Dr. Richard Zachman, who now for 8 years has basically navigated me through stage 4 metastatic colon cancer. And the blood work's coming from the phlebotomist. And he says, "Give me Howard's counts." And we're talking because he's played basketball with me. We're friends, after 8 years. You
Right.
develop relationship with your medical teams. And the collaborative, the better, right? The smarter patient, the better. So the paperwork comes in, and he's just looking at it, and he's shaking his head going, "I need you back out there. Go give more blood. The machines aren't working correctly," which has happened. Okay. And all the CBC diffs I've given, and it comes back exactly the same. He said, "Howard, you have pancytomas, and you have no immune system. How did you play basketball? You shouldn't be driving right now. I mean, you literally have, a neutropenic going on right now." And I said, "What are you talking about? I feel fine." And he was very concerned. So he comes to me, he says, "Oh my God, let's go in the next day." He goes, "Maybe it's autoimmune," right? And they load me up with a ton of B12. Well, that was just a shot in the dark. The next day, he says, "Friday, you're coming in from a bone marrow aspirate." Here's the bad thing about the medical charts, the electronic medical records. I read it before my cancer team read it.
Right.
I saw that I actually had acute myeloid leukemia with 30% cancer burden, and had to sit with that before he called me that evening to talk it out. And again, that's the bad thing sometimes, is that we learn things before our medical teams now, with all this advancement in AI and advancement in digital. And so that was a tough one to handle, because for the third time in my life, it goes to a screeching halt. And I had a blood cancer, in 1989, stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Had a tough run with that at age 23. And my twin sister was an exact match and saved my life. And so at first they thought that her bone marrow stopped working. That was the initial thing I was told. Your sister's bone marrow stopped working. And that was incorrect. I have 2 types of bone marrow, male and female. I am a unicorn. And basically what they said, and this is Dr. Eric Rubin, because I call in the cavalry. I called Rob Seufer from Dana-Farber, who's head of their transplant team. Dr. Eric Rubin was my Harvard fellow during Cancer One, and we
the best they can be, right?
Yeah, he's retired now, but head of medical research. But we're still friends.
Yeah.
So after a day or two, how can this happen, right? What's the answer? How can this happen if it's my twin sister's bone marrow and my original non-Hodgkin's lymphoma turned into, acute myeloid leukemia, a real tough one? And he says to me, and again, you know Eric, and the audience may not know this guy. He's straight-laced, nothing moves him, and he's smart, so smart, and just a dear friend. Over the phone, he says to me, he said, "Howard, you're a 500,000-mile car. Your engine seized up. That's all we need to know." And it's accurate. I've been through a lot. He told me, he said, "Your sister's bone marrow is being nominated for the Guinness Book of World Records." This is his humor, right? He goes, "Because it saved you from stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it made it through stage 4 metastatic colon cancer. 5 years, no end of the disease." So that's basically how we got diagnosed and how real time we're in. And that was October 25th. A day later, he gave me Saturday to get my affairs in order. Okay. And then Sunday, I'm in isolation, chemo isolation. They're throwing targeted therapies at me. I don't want to say what they are, but they didn't work. After 10 days or another 14 days in a bone marrow aspirate and biopsy, 40% cancer burden, not 30, 40. We're going in the wrong direction.
Right.
Okay? Wrong direction. All right. So then it's Thanksgiving week. So I come in, I get some blood tests on a Tuesday. He said, we're going to check you in on a Wednesday. I go, it's the day before Thanksgiving. I go,
Right.
I don't want to go in on Thanksgiving. My daughter's flying in. My parents are flying in from Boston. My daughter's a reporter in Missoula, Montana. He says, okay. He goes, as long as you wear a mask and gloves and everyone, stays away from you pretty much, I'll bring you in on Sunday. He goes, but you're going to have like everything but stem cells. We did the flag protocol and basically for 5 days, and then they just watch you grow back and give you blood transfusions. I broke out and turned into Barney, the purple dinosaur, with a reaction to an antibiotic, and they were giving me ointments for that. And they watch you, and the teams come in, 6 o'clock for blood, rounding at 7, and you get into a thing. But I was doing my laps around the hospital, gloves and mask, and but I was isolated.
Which they want you to do, right? They want you to do laps and stay active.
Oh,
right?
they absolutely want you to exercise in your room or to do laps. You got to keep the blood going. And then once I got that rash, they loaded me up with so many fluids, I stopped doing my laps. And you can become emaciated in a hospital very quickly. 1 day equals 3 days, and you can get out of shape and out of tired. And I lost weight. I lost 22 pounds. And so I'm in chemo isolation, right? And my twin sister comes every day for 12 o'clock. And then people would bring me food. I was allowed outside food. So I could say corned beef sandwich today with Russian dressing. And people would drop that off, stay very short amount of time. You get to know your nurses. Shout out to the nurses. Oh my God, they are angels.
Unsung heroes, right?
I have to tell you, they spend more time with the patient. And so you get to know them. And you know me, I'm not shy. So we're chatting it up a lot. But most of the time I didn't feel great. And I stopped doing my laps. And I spent 34 days. And that's the other thing that I forgot about blood cancer. With having to do with blood counts and being, immune suppressed and neutropenic, it's isolating. I was alone a lot. I mean, every night, once my sister left, from 6 to 12 the next day, except for people popping in and popping out and the nurses, I'm alone.
We'll get right back to Howard's incredible story. But first, I want to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you for listening, for caring, and for believing in progress. Stories like Howard's reminds us why we can't slow down in the fight against cancer and why research is the key to saving lives. Howard's journey is nothing short of remarkable, but his story isn't just about survival. It's about the power of research, innovation, and community. Right now, there are thousands of patients facing the same battle, hoping for the same breakthroughs that helped Howard beat cancer not once, but twice. But progress doesn't happen without support. It takes funding, it takes resources, and it takes all of us coming together. The American Association for Cancer Research is leading the charge, funding life-saving research that is changing lives every single day. And you can be a part of that change. Please visit AACR.org right now to make a donation. Every dollar brings us closer to better treatments, better survival rates, and a future free from cancer. Join us in making progress because together we save lives. All right, let's get back to the episode because Howard's journey is far from over. How are you dealing with all this? Like, how do you keep your attitude so positive?
So one, I'm a war veteran, right? I've been in the trenches two other times. So I'm not always positive. That's just a fact. All right. I allowed myself, as I share in my book, Shining Brightly, that I walked in darkness. I allowed myself to go into that darkness. I was angry. How can this happen again? I got so much to do. I got plenty of basketball to play, and I want to walk my daughter down the aisle. But I cried. I got angry. And then I actually had the discipline, the mental, mindset to be able to say, you know what? I got to focus on the right things. Okay. And I still don't know what's going to happen. But in those 30 days of isolation, I was able to reach out digitally. Okay. This was an analog days of 1990. And because of LinkedIn and Facebook, I made a call for people to support me with hugs and prayer healings and be able to do that.
What help can our audience do for Howard Brown and for others out there in similar situation?
Do not isolate. Have a care team. And if you don't have a care team, there are people out there in nonprofits and advocacy organizations that will help you build your care team. That's the first thing. I rely on my twin sister and my brother-in-law, and now my parents. My daughter's flying in, then flying out. You got to have someone with you because it's a tough time. You don't want to go this alone. The other thing is that I always say that when I get in a mood or I'm having doubt, I go do an act of kindness for someone else, and it makes me and the other person feel well, and that's really important. The other thing is that, Mitch, I'm not your average bear. I've been through the Scientific Survivor Program. I'm the chairman of the board, or emeritus now of Colon Town. I'm an educated cancer. I can speak, not doctor, but I know how to have a very collaborative conversation with my teams, and that helps. So go get smart, okay? But don't do Dr. Google. Go to these advocacy orgs, go to the AACR, and get smart. And I've been through the program, and so I know how to read my charts. And that's a good and a bad thing, but I also know how to ask the questions. But a collaborative patient's the best patient.
Where can people send you messages, Howard, if they want to send you, hope messages and things of that sort?
Either Facebook or LinkedIn is best. I'll read them all. I may not return them all. I have a big raving fan base there, so it's a little hard for me to keep up. I don't have too many other distractions. If I don't want to be on social media, which I'm on a lot less, I won't. I don't even know who won the election. Okay, I know, I'm kidding. But I did hear there was a plane crash. I get it, but I don't get too deep in that. Those are all things that don't really matter to me. Okay, I have to get and live so I can go do other great things in this world, and then get out of there, and then you follow me for 100 days, and then get back to the gym and get back to calories.
Got to focus on you.
At this time, in my time of need, that's the great thing, is that I am learned, okay, over all these cancers, to be able to accept help.
As I told my friend Howard last week, and most people in the audience know that I love basketball and play basketball, as well as my buddy here. And we have a standing basketball date at some point in time. So my man's got to get healthy and get ready to go, get in shape, and we'll be off and running and all that good stuff. You look great, actually. You look like you've gained some weight back. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, 7 pounds, and you know what? Boot camp has worked. Okay. And pie has worked. So I'm actually, I gained 7 pounds, and I'm also in good shape, stamina wise. I walked in the weekend. It's snowing now here in Michigan, but it was 47 degrees over the weekend, and I did 3,000 steps on Saturday and Sunday. That's why it's a head scratcher why my counts are so, kind of messed up right now, but we'll figure that out. And that's it. Mitch, can I actually say something that's very important? Okay.
Please.
Is that people, the word that I don't love, okay, is that you got this. Yeah, I know I got cancer, but I don't know if I got this. That's a word that I commonly see on social media. You got this. Well, most cancer patients, we don't know if we got this, but people still use that expression. When people ask you, okay, if they can do something for you, have an answer. So I have an answer, and you and I discussed this, and I put this out on social media, but I have a GoFundMe going. I'm racking up millions of dollars of bills that most insurance will cover. But also there's something you can do that's free called a healing prayer. Send me a healing prayer. This is a digital world. I don't want me only talking to God. I want the big masses, and I have a big crew of raving fans that are talking to God and saying, help Howard. The second thing is that because of the recent fires in California and the hurricanes that go through California, there's a shortage of blood. You can donate blood anywhere you're at and platelets in my honor. But you could do it from, in your own hometown at your community hospital or your cancer hospital, donate blood. So there's a need for that. The second thing is just what you brought up is about getting swabbed. It's easy. You sign up on the website, they send you a swab, you mail it back to them, you're in the registry. If they call you, they will ask you to give some more blood to see if you're a match. And being the donor now has become easier ever, and it's worldwide. The last thing that don't cost any money either are, and something that I wish I could do, but I'm immunosuppressed. I can't hug my family right now.
Mm.
I will. I'm going to sneak one into my daughter. Don't worry about that. But she'll be wearing a mask and gloves. But hug your family, because you don't know, okay, when your October 25th happens to you and bad news happen, okay? I didn't expect this at all. And then biggest thing either, okay, and this was I shut my podcast down, hiatus, I got to focus, is that you have to be kind to yourself first before you can be kind to others. And so I tell people to go do a random act of kindness to others, buy them that cup of coffee, let them in line, in a traffic area, just be kind, because that's the heart-based emotion, and that's truly shining brightly. And so those things right there are my ask. Those are what I say. I have an answer. If you're out there, have your answer when you're in need to, can I do something for you? So I got to tell you, this is a little funny. One of my high school buddies, he says, you're too skinny. You know what showed up on my doorstep yesterday? A whole lot of Omaha steaks, chicken, hot dogs, and burgers, baby.
Right.
Way more. I got to low up on that protein. So that's a beautiful thing. Isn't that beautiful?
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. Thank you for your time today. We are all behind you all the way. What great words of wisdom from you. I think they were words of wisdom. They inspire me. You're a wonderful guy, and you're a mensch, and I appreciate your friendship. And you take care of you, and we'll be thinking about you, and we'll all be saying prayers and following a lot of your guidance that you just gave us. So, Howard, thank you so much. Best of luck to you. May God be with you, and we're behind you all the way, buddy.
Heart, and I know that cancer research saves lives, because it saved mine not only 2 times, it's going to save my life again. Please keep on keeping on.
I appreciate it, Howard. Great pleasure to have Howard Brown with us today. Howard, I've had the pleasure to meet you in person a couple times, and you've been involved with AACR in many different ways, but love to learn a little bit more about your story. You've been dealing with cancer for a number of years, but tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from, and just so people can get to know you better.
So I appreciate that. And I am grateful for the AACR, and we'll get to that because I'm alive today because of medical technology and cancer research, and some personal mental toughness and physical toughness too. But I was born in St. Louis, but I grew up in Boston, the suburbs of Boston, and I'm a twin. And that becomes very important a little later down in the story. I love basketball my whole life. So I actually played high school and college basketball. And I went to the #1 school for entrepreneurship, Babson College, outside of Boston, Mass. And it changed the trajectory of my entire life. I got into technology and into startups. And I love innovation. And everything was great after I graduated, except the fact that I grew a small pink nodule on my cheekbone. And at age 23 and a half, and this is before the internet, before cell phones, and before computer use was, really broadly adopted. And I flew home to do a speech to the American Bankers Society, and my dad took me to a local community hospital, and they said I had a little cyst, and I just wasn't feeling good. And thank God it popped out. But the next visit, they took a biopsy, and then we waited weeks and weeks to find out what was going on. And I got called back to Boston, and I was living in Dayton, Ohio at the time. And I go to this community hospital, and there's like 7 doctors around me. And they said, you have an appointment at 2 p.m. at Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. Don't be late. And that was the first time I'd ever heard of cancer. And I had no idea what I had. And I went to Dana-Farber, I did test, and I noticed that I was one of the young people in the adult waiting room. So I moseyed off to the pediatric side in the Jimmy Fund with the kids that were hanging out. And I still was a deer in the headlights. I didn't know why I was there. But once I was called in, and they told me that I had stage 4 T-cell non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, very aggressive, blood cancer of the lymphatic system, I didn't hear another word. And I had some great doctors, and I just was stunned. I look back, my mom was in tears, and my dad was a statue. And we had to begin to learn and start that journey. But when you hear that words, you have cancer, it's really not you, it's we have cancer because it affects everybody.
Yes. And so you've been diagnosed, you're at Dana-Farber. What happens next?
So there's a long story to it, but no good news. I'm failing therapies. They're throwing the kitchen sink at me. I'm having tons of side effects. I'm landing in the hospital. I'm doing tons of blood transfusions, platelet transfusions. And the piece of good news, and this goes back to being a twin sister, she typed an exact 100% HLA match for a bone marrow transplant. And that was in about February of 1990. And they worked like hell to get me into remission. And on May 17th, I checked into Dana-Farber, and they put me through blasting chemotherapy. That was the protocol. And twice daily for 20 minutes, full body irradiation, which was tough stuff, to get my immune system down to 0 so that my sister's bone marrow could regrow in me. And listen, when you sign the paperwork, they say, listen, you're taking someone else's blood or an organ. It could kill you right away. It could kill you quickly over time. Or our prayer and hope is that it will work. Well, it started to grow in me and my immune system is growing back. And then the intent of her immune system was to kill off the malignancy. Well, they were watching me and taking blood counts like crazy, and it started to work. And I went on to a very early clinical trial, arm 1, patient 4 of interleukin 2. So I was an experimental guy, but that worked. It strengthened my natural killer cells. And I wore a little belt and I changed the cartridge every Tuesday. I called it my oil change with my nurses. And I started to, build that immune system back up. And pretty much after they see things are working, you start to go on surveillance. And that's when you go from diagnosis, stunned during the headlights, to the treatment. And then you move forward to survivorship. And putting Humpty Dumpty back together again is really tough. And I was 24 and a half years old. So not only did I think I was going to die, I had to go build the bricks again and build my confidence and my physical ability and my financial ability to work a full day. And I did that by getting back in shape on the basketball court, finding my happy place. So I moved to California, all the way across the country. So that's part of story one. But that's a miracle that my twin sister was able to give me that. Now, Mitch, not everybody has this, but I have my bag of life. This is the actual bone marrow bag that my sister's bone marrow was purple at the time. They infused in me. And why I took it, I have no idea. But this bag saved my life.
Wow. So there was a bone marrow transplant?
Yeah, now they call it a stem cell transplant.
Yes.
But back then they called it a bone marrow transplant. And they extracted my sister's bone marrow, cleaned it up a bit, removed some things, and then injected into me in an infusion.
Remarkable. When we talked many months ago, we started talking, both of us, about our love for basketball, because I played basketball,
Yeah.
and I played basketball in college as well, and you really felt a synergy with you. My brother is a cancer survivor, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma B cell, so it's different, obviously, and he was very fortunate also because of cancer research, because they, Rituxan was discovered, and sure enough, took care of him and cured him, and he's still out there, living a good life. So that we are really pleased about.
Well, I'm one of the longest living bone marrow transplant survivors that Dana-Farber can remember, because they lose track of you. After you stop doing, 5 years and your gallium scans and your blood tests, and they want to do a bone marrow aspirate biopsy, you kind of lose track unless you decide to keep in touch. And so this is now, 34 years ago.
Yeah.
And I keep in touch with my docs, but most people don't. They go on with their lives, which is the point of the whole thing. And so I wake up every day from that and just say that I am really blessed, very grateful, and very lucky from that episode there.
Howard, why California? Was it Silicon Valley? Is that what drove you there?
It wasn't. It was Southern Cal at first, because I was working for a large computer company. They hired me back after being off for about 18 months, 19 months, which is quick. Maybe it was a little longer than that. But listen, we got a book on cancer. There wasn't the internet in 1990. We had to learn this all analog days.
Right.
So we were learning the game in a very slow, methodical method. It was very different than what happened in cancer too. But I moved to California because that was where my job was, and I wanted the beach and the wind and I want to play basketball year round outdoors. So it was that was a good reason there.
That's great.
To move out there.
So you've written a memoir called Shining Brightly. Love to hear more about that, but you share keys to leading a resilient life. Could you discuss that a little bit with the audience, please?
I will. I want to just touch base, because the story has to continue before we get to the book, because when I was in California and I built myself back up, which is, through, emotionally, physically, financially, and in relationships, I started to do some volunteering in the Jewish community there. And I met my wife. My karma changed. I got healthy. I met my wife. I was a Jewish big brother, raising funds for others. And life became good and sweet again. So, I tried to put cancer in the rear view with always never forgetting that experience and all the people and the doctors and everything that happened. But you need to move on and without ever forgetting. And I moved up to Silicon Valley, and my wife and I called for that frozen sperm before I ever did any chemotherapy, because my doctor talked to me about fertility, even though they didn't know if I was going to live or die. And I left a sperm sample, and we called for that from Newton Wellesley Hospital. And another miracle, my daughter Emily was born as a healthy baby girl, and 11 years later from frozen sperm. So medical technology again, came back to bless me. So I wanted to make sure I included that. And then, unfortunately, I had a big run in Silicon Valley with IPOing technology companies, and my twin sister moved to Michigan, and I wanted my daughter to grow up with family and cousins. So I took my technology business on the road and moved to Michigan. And at age 50, I went in for my normal physical, and it was time for my colonoscopy. That was the age, and not 45 as it is today. And they found a 8.5 centimeter tumor. Now, if I would have been screened at age 40, then I might not have had colon cancer. Might have had early stage. So getting screened is a big part of what I do now, is to save people the pain and agony of chemo, surgeries, radiation, side effects, clinical trials. The best way to basically beat cancer is not to get it, and you got to keep up with your screening. So I preach that all the time. But I ended up getting stage 3 colon cancer, and it metastasized a year later to stage 4 to my liver, my peritoneum, and omentum, a stomach lining, and my bowel. And things got very dark again. But we're living in the digital age. So the resource availability, the advocacy organizations, the amount of data, I could talk to real patients that had this surgery I had, which is called cytoreduction hyperinterperitoneal chemotherapy, HIPEC. It's where they actually take out and debulk all the live and dead cancer cells in your pelvis and abdomen, and they poured hot chemotherapy inside of me and then spun me around like a rotisserie chicken. And right now, that has gotten me to 3.5 years of no evidence of disease. So unfortunately, lightning struck again, right? And I got a stage 4 diagnosis. And listen, in the stage 4 world, we live with a lot of death. And it's not because of anyone giving up. It's because the cancer burden gets too great and God's calling your number. But I have right now been able to, 30 years apart, be able to talk about this, relay my experience. And again, I had to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. So that's the totality of the story. And what I did from cancer to COVID was I dictated a book. It's called Shining Brightly. Mm-hmm. For those that are be watching, I'm holding up my book, Shining Brightly, shiningbrightly.com. And this basically allowed me a therapeutic approach to invite the most important and influential people in my life and walk my life back and tell my lessons that I learned. And that's where resiliency comes into play, because I could have easily folded my cards and it could have gotten dark and depressive. I had a lot of bad days where I didn't want to get out of bed. And unless the dog needed to walk, I didn't get out of bed. But what I did was, when I started to feel better, I started to be able to interact with these advocacy organizations, my cheerleaders and supporters, and make sure that my medical team knew exactly how we're doing, so we could collaborate together and make sure that we're following the right course of action. So in the book, it's a great read, because I'm not talking to the reader, I'm talking in these Zoom rooms to the most important people in my life. So there's mentorship, entrepreneurship, leadership. There is 3 cancer chapters. There's a full chapter on basketball. Right. There's a chapter on interfaith relations. And there's a chapter on the best 4-letter word you're ever going to hear. And you do this all the time, Mitch, with your team: hope. Without hope, okay, what the AACR gives to everybody, okay, across the board, hope. If you don't have hope, where are you going? Right. And you got to mix hope with gratitude, and you got to mix it with the shining of your light. And that's where the light bulb is. We're shining light for peace, love, and hope. Because with hope, you can make it that 2 steps out of bed. You can make it actually to get back to work. You can accomplish your goals. And so it's really a motivational book, not a cancer book, but it was one of my ways. And I'm at least likely to be a published author, but I am a published author, and I'm on the speaking tour and podcast tour.
That's
and
great.
I'm just shouting from the rooftops to go get screened and share my story.
What they say in the movie, hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, right? Hope is really
100%.
Important. I want to take a quick moment to remind you that stories like Howard's don't happen by chance. They happen because of research. They happen because of hope. and they happen because of people like you decide to make a difference. If you've been inspired by Howard's resilience, if you believe in the power of science to change lives, now is the time to act. Visit aacr.org or check the show notes for Howard's GoFundMe link. Even a small contribution helps fuel research, accelerate treatments, and give hope to those still fighting, because cancer doesn't wait, and neither can we. All right, let's get back to our conversation with our very special guest, Howard Brown. So you're wearing a shirt that I recognize, Colon Town, and I think
Yes.
that relates to just some of the advocacy work that you do. Tell us a little bit about Colon Town. Tell us a little bit about many advocacy, avenues that you've gone down and what you're doing to help people and give back.
Yep. The first one I ever did is I spoke to about 1,000 people in San Francisco in the Bay Area for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society for their team in training. And I was the keynote speaker there. This is back in 1995. And I really was there to tell them that they were my heroes. Okay, what they were doing to train and run a marathon or ride a triathlon or whatever they were doing for their groups to raise funds that really to affect cancer research and to allow people to be able to do their jobs and solve a very complex jigsaw puzzle called cancer. And so what that led me to do is I wanted to give back, because the people that I met in Colon Town that had been through CRS HIPEC before, I saw them. They were walking 5 steps or 10 steps ahead of me. So they were my cancer whisperers. And Cancer Whisperer is a mentor, right? And now I mentor, I'm 5 steps ahead of other folks that are actually getting their diagnosis or in treatment. And that's what Colon Town was formed for. It's when you get diagnosed, it's how to help patients, caregivers, and partners. And it's all run by caregivers and patients. And it's an amazing organization because it's a complex diagnosis, and there's a lot of things that you need to know and to be able how to deal with this on a lot of different fronts. And Colon Town, amongst one of the great advocacy organizations, is there for patients. The Colon Cancer Coalition on screening and advocacy, the Colon Cancer Alliance, which I'm part of, I'm a champion there. They do so much to help the patient experience. And what happens is that we teach patients not only about their disease, we actually have them use their voice, because we need to be able to tell our stories, and we need to now do this in collaboration and break down previously the silos with researchers, with investigators, with clinicians, with industry, with pharma, and with technology. We were the missing piece. And with us getting in there, we need each other. And I say this in my book, and I say this and I shout from the rooftops. Life and cancer are team sports. And the patient voice inside there will help accelerate the advances that we make. And that's just what I believe in my heart, and that's what I do.
So you also have been involved with one of the AACR special programs called the SSP program, the Scientist Survivor Program, alumni of that program, and I believe you were a mentor in that program just recently in Orlando. Tell people that are listening and watching you here today a little bit about that program and perhaps why we think it's such a special program and really important as well.
So the Scientific Survivor Program, one, it was its 25th year. So just lucky and honored to be able to celebrate 25 years. But it was an ingenious invention by Dr. Marge Fody, who's the CEO of AACR, and Anna Barker, who's just world-renowned. They wanted the patients to actually get smarter. That's the simplicity of it. And the patient advocate, to have them smarter, allows them to be able to talk. Hey, listen, we're not doctors, we're not PhDs, we're not researchers, but in order to be able to convey us as patient, engagements and subject matter experts is a really important piece of the puzzle. And right now, the opening of the door and being welcomed to the table is so exciting for us, because these pharma organizations that are developing the cures and the vaccines and the better imaging and the liquid biopsies and the wearables, they need the patient data, the patient tumor, the patient blood. All of that is now helping get the data, because Dr. Barker is very clear. Data is data until it becomes usable information. And so we go through a very intensive program, and I'm fortunate that I got to do it when I was in treatment at the annual meeting in Atlanta in 2019, then 2 years virtually because of COVID. and then back in person in New Orleans, and this year as an advocate mentor with a cohort of 36 of all different types of cancer, everyone trying to understand and get smart. And we do a course called Mini Med School. We present posters and we do a group project. And you put on about 20,000 steps on your shoes and sneakers. And we get to meet. I mean, how privileged are we to meet with the FDA, the National Cancer Institute, the NIH, and to meet with subject matter experts? It's very much an honor and a privilege to be accepted into the program. And it is work to complete the program, but that work allows us to go back and strengthen our advocacy. And how many times now I've now built up, my credentials. I'm learning. I'm going to continue to learn. But now being the honor of being asked to actually speak in front of cancer researchers and investigators, being called on patient advisory councils for the pharmaceutical company and medical device company and therapeutics. It's such a beautiful thing that we are being welcomed, and it's long overdue, but it's a beautiful thing.
Thank you so much for your leadership and taking part in that, and being a great advocate for the organization. When you meet people that are battling cancer, families that are battling cancer, what do you? I mean, obviously it's different for different people, but what kind of message do you send them? Do you try to motivate, or what's your message?
So the first key message, and I actually say this in the cancer chapters in my book, is that this is your time to be selfish and learn to accept help. You have to let others help you. Okay. Whether it's the meal, the calendar of meals from the soccer team, moms and dads, whether it's getting cheerleader, whether it's a GoFundMe, let people help you in your time of need. And the person who is in the time of need the most is your caregiver. Okay, my caregiver parents and my caregiver wife are angels on earth, just like our nurses and our infusion nurses, what they do every day. My wife had to basically take over running the household, raising our daughter, and making sure and keeping track of medical bills, appointments, when to take the medicines. And so that's the first piece of advice that I give anyone that gets diagnosed is it's your time to be selfish, learn to accept help. And I've done that. The second piece is that you need to stay hydrated, you need to stay active, and you need to get enough sleep. And sleeping is healing. And that's all about taking care of yourself when you're in the midst of this. And sometimes it's hard to do. And if you cannot get out of bed that day, don't. But when you can get out of bed, you could actually just go up and down the stairs. You got to get your blood moving. The worst thing to do is to be sedentary.
Right.
And the other thing is the next thing is get a mentor. Okay. Get a buddy, get a mentor. There's organizations like Emmerman Angels and the Alliance that do this. Get someone here that you can talk to. Okay. Or get professional help. Talk to a nurse navigator, talk to a social worker, talk to another cancer patient. You don't have to keep that all bottled up. And I have to tell you, men, and Trevor Maxwell was on the cover of Cancer Today magazine. He started it for men. Men tend to isolate, and men don't want to share their feelings, and men are macho. You don't have to be macho. Cancer is not something that you actually have to just conquer yourself. And so those are the three basic things that I start with when someone actually gets a diagnosis.
Research is really, really important. You talked a little bit about team sport, which I kind of love. I haven't really heard that phrase before, but tell our audience why, in your mind, this team sport or funding cancer research is really critical for future advances.
Well, first of all, it's vital. All right, we can't make advances in this. This costs money, and this is not just a simple thing that you flip over we do a fundraiser and then it's done. This is cancer is something that we're going to have in our lifetimes, and hopefully we eradicate it in future lifetimes. Colon cancer is on the rise in young people. This isn't your granddaddy's disease anymore. Young people are getting colon cancer, and we need to fix that. And so we've had some great breakthroughs, and immunotherapy is one of them. It is starting to break that down. People are healing. They are living longer with cancer. I think there's the stat is 16 million living, and then there's going to be about 25 million people living with cancer, or maybe it's 18 million. But we are the why, right? So what you do every day by asking people to support cancer research is to actually take Howard Brown and allow him to live one more second, one more day, one more week, one more month, and one more year, living his life with his family. And that's why you want to donate, because in order to get there and make these advances, we have to do that. And this is what the
Love it.
organization, that's the core foundation of what you do, Mitch, at AACR,
Love
is
the
to raise
message.
those vital funds to move us forward.
Love that message. How do you stay in shape? You still playing basketball, or what you're walking and running? What are you doing?
So I'm active. I like to bike and mountain bike a little, and I like to hike, but I'm still playing ball at age 57.
All right.
I'm not the same guy. I've slowed it up, but I've developed a 3-pointer, even with stage 3 peripheral neuropathy. I can knock down a 3. I'm a point guard on the court, and I played last night. I didn't play as well, but on Monday I played as well. I got called at the last second. I couldn't miss. So I'm just so grateful to be on the court, because that is the happy place. And you know this, Mitch.
I know.
That's the stress-free zone.
Yes.
Okay. You can talk trash. Yeah. I don't have a worry on the court at all, except for the fact that, did the guy make a back pick, or did we score? Did we win? And it's all in fun and games. And I love it. And everyone needs to find their happy place, right? It could be yoga, meditation, cooking. I don't care. Go find it. Go there often. And I like to get on the court at least 2 to 3 times a week.
Interesting you say that. For many, many years, when I was in a low spot, I would just go get the ball, go shoot hoops, and everything kind of took care of itself. Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really amazing.
It's really cool.
So people want to get in touch with you. People want, you showed us the book earlier. Could you let the audience know best way to communicate with Howard Brown? You also have a podcast. So I would love to hear about that for a minute or two, how we can get in touch with you for the podcast as well.
Easy to get in touch with me. ShiningBrightly.com leads all avenues to me, whether it's speaking, podcasting, the book, or advocacy. And it's just been such a way to be able to have me grow and to actually, rebuild, that blueprint of survivorship. And I really do, every day I try to actually impact someone for screening, the disparity communities, or the remote communities, or the poor economic communities, because screening, which we didn't do during COVID, actually saves lives. So that's the first thing. But the podcast itself is that you have to have a platform, okay? And this platform allows me to talk about overcoming things, but we always end with inspiration. So for those that are listening, I'm putting on my Shining Brightly glasses, because we put the Shining Brightly spotlight on inspiration. All right. There's enough bad news out there in the world, and I'm not ignoring it to any extent, but let's talk about shining brightly each day so that we can make the world a better place for ourselves, for others, and then for our communities. And so that's why I do a podcast. So we end with inspiration, and it's been amazing. I'm meeting some of the most amazing people in the world that, against all odds, are breathing, living their lives, and giving back.
Well, it's awesome. Howard, you are an inspiration, and you are a gem, and we are so thankful that you're doing what you do for the community at large. We're so thankful that you're supporting and advocating for the AACR, and I'm happy you're happy, and I love being in your company, and honored that you gave us a few minutes of your time today, and we're behind you all the way. Keep doing what you do, because that's what I love. I love passion, enthusiasm, and shining brightly. I really do love that. Don't know if I have any specs quite like that, but you're the best. Keep doing the great things that you're doing. We're really fortunate to have you around.
I'm grateful to you and the AACR. It means such a big part of my life, and it's helped me a ton. It helped me grow. It helped me get better. Helped me heal. Please keep doing your thing, which is getting people to do the vital donations to support the research that we all desperately need. And I'm grateful to be on your podcast.
Great. I will do that, and you be well, my friend. Thanks so much for your time, Howard.
Thank you.
Howard's journey is a testament to the power of research, resilience, and community. And while his fight continues, so does his unwavering belief in progress. If this episode inspired you, please share it with a friend, subscribe to Believe in Progress, and most importantly, take action. Support Howard's GoFundMe, contribute to cancer research at aacr.org, and be part of the movement to end cancer. Together, we can drive progress. Together, we can give more people like Howard the chance to keep shining brightly. Thank you for listening. Stay strong, stay hopeful, and keep believing in progress.